innocent folk to die.
By these 50 countries, differing so much in race and religion, in language and culture.
It is a big idea, a new world order.
Well, I know they're lying. They tricked me once, but they're not going to trick me twice. The time is now. Welcome back to the Professor Penn podcast. David Penn, your host. Glad to be with you as always for episode number 240, coming to you on this Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. You know, good morning, Tanner. I'm glad to see you're feeling good again. We got you on mic.
Yeah, I got feeling a little better.
That's great. How's your daughter doing? Is she's
much better than me. She
Great.
got sick, but for some reason she handles it much better. So
We had Tanner on the last, he came in to do the last podcast. He couldn't even talk. He just dragged himself in here. And who am I talking to? Back in studio with us is candidate for Minnesota governor, Phil Parrish. Phil, welcome. We're glad you've come back in.
Thank you. Yeah.
And before we get going, I want to take care of some business here. I want to welcome the hundreds of new participants in this community that have joined the Professor Penn podcast on YouTube over the last couple of weeks. We've had some very good response to recent podcasts. You're going to say, what are we doing here today? Well, what we're doing here today is we're speaking with a Minnesota citizen, an American citizen, who has found the calling and the courage to run as a candidate for governor. And whatever state you're in, there's people in your state, just like Phil Parrish, who they're just citizens that for whatever reason they felt the call at this time in American history, at this time in world history, to be part of this great change that's sweeping across our land. So if you're listening in Oregon or Washington, or perhaps you're listening in Africa or England, where all the people are tuning in from, we want American citizens, English citizens, people that come from the people of the people, because our governance, what's that saying, Phil? Of the people, by the people, for the people?
Yeah. That's
And
good.
we've kind of gotten away from that over the last 60 years. And we now have a curated class of professional politicians. And I do say that if the outcome was sensational, I would want to be in that group myself. I would want to be a Harvard graduate, military service, married my high school sweetheart. I got 3 kids. Everything's good. And if I had a healthy culture and a healthy country, I'd say these people were doing a great job. But actually, the people that have this great curated background have given me $37 trillion of debt, an endless war where our citizens are shooting each other in the street. And in fact, people have the brass to assassinate people. And this is all on all of us. It's on all of us. It's not, let's not blame any. Yes, there is accountability for crime, for doing heinous acts on the individual basis. But we're all in on this together. This is our culture. This is our American culture. It's our worldwide culture. And our culture is not generating a culture of life and longevity. It's generating a culture of death and destruction. So when citizens come out of the dirt, so to speak, they come with a different perspective. And I'm so glad Phil's in. Before we start this interview, I want to remind everyone, we fund this studio, Free People Radio, through your purchases of tires at TireGet.com. That's TireGet.com. It's the best deal on tires you're going to get anywhere. And we've started an affiliate program. So if you're out there like Skinny and you want to support what we're doing here, you go to support at TireGet.com. That's support at TireGet.com. You just say you want to be part of the affiliate program. We'll get you business cards. You pass them out to your friends, your family. Maybe you know someone that owns 20 pickup trucks. Maybe you're on the farm. You know people that buy a lot of tires. Well, you give them the card, and we'll give you a promo code. And if they use that promo code, they'll get an extra discount. And why do we give them that discount? Just to track the sale back to you, because we're going to pay you for doing this. So you can get a little bit of pin money added to your budget. We're all struggling to pay the bills, and you'll be supporting this content. And if you like this content, thank you very much. Phil, I'm so glad you're here with us. I'm watching your candidacy very closely. I made the statement to you off camera, but it seems you're doing so well, you're drawing more fire down upon your position. We've got new entries into the race.
Yeah.
Kristen Robbins has joined the race, and since the last time we had you on, I put up 2 very critical podcasts about Kristen Robbins, and I said up front, I don't know Kristen personally. I don't know if she's a good person or bad person. I'm just looking at publicly available information about her history, and her history and how she presents herself to me doesn't seem to add up, and I don't like that. That's that kind of curated public persona, which has nothing to do with who a person might really be. And when I was at the State Central Committee this past weekend, her husband, Brent Robbins, walked up to me, and he was very mild-mannered and cool, and he said I was fair and even-handed, and I said, look, Brent, tell Kristen to come on the podcast. Let her rebut me. I will treat her with the same respect that I treat you, because when you're a guest, now people know I have a political perspective. They get it.
Yeah.
But when I'm in this role, I'm an interviewer. I'm a journalist. I'm listening. I'm trying to learn. So Kristen, because I know Kristen's going to listen, Scott Jensen, I invited him on. He didn't respond to me. Scott, we know each other. You're welcome here. For example, Brad Kohler, I invited him on. He turned me down. I don't know why. I mean, a lot of people listen to Free People Radio. Hey, if you think you can pass on this section of the populace, hey, take a pass. See how that works for you. But you're all welcome. And we want people to come in because what we want Free People Radio to be, this part of Free People, the interviewing part, we want it to be a center for sharing, for growing, for building citizen involvement in politics, because we are self-governing. That's the essence of republicanism. I don't mean the Republican Party. I mean the philosophy of republicanism, which goes back some 400 years, is about the citizen sovereign. It's a reaction to the kings and queens of Europe, who had a hereditary hold on the countries and the people in association with the Catholic Church. And so the people of Europe, struggling under that yoke of oppression, said, wait a second. Wait. These kings and queens die. They get diseases. Who are these priests? They're just people, just like me. Why am I giving up my sovereignty, my freedom? And they liberated themselves. Of course, there was an enlightenment, and technology and science was part of that. And here we are, 400 years later, right on the verge of falling right back into the kind of neo-feudalism from which republicanism emerged. But the reason it's on the verge of reestablishing itself is we don't have enough citizen engagement in maintaining our freedom. That is my preamble. Welcome. If you don't agree with me, tell me.
Well, I think what fits right away is our little discussion ahead of the program about the paradigm that some people are living in is starting to crack. And with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I'm finding and seeing in friends and colleagues, staff, parishioners, volunteers, the people that are handling that paradigm or that vision, their worldview is cracking. Through grace and mercy with themselves, they're giving themselves a break and getting past the anger and the hostility and trying to do something positive. But the people who are, my warning in a couple of the pieces that I wrote recently is that those that are not handling that well, and they're staying fixated on the lie, this false paradigm that they've created or bought into, they're handling it with so much anger and hostility that it's actually causing some real anxiety, some problems in our communities. So yeah, it's we are on that. I think feudalism has been going on for a while, and yes, we are in danger of falling back into a way of life that is proven to be detrimental to all people.
To their well-being.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm interested in this paradigm shift, but before we really delve into it, you know, I'm a participant in the Republican Party of Minnesota, and for my listeners, and if you're a leftist tuning in, you know, they don't all of them like me very much in the Republican Party because I am a critic of a certain kind of republicanism, which to me is not republicanism. It's a kind of a post World War II Republican affiliation with the Democrat liberal order. And that Democrat liberal order is exactly what it is identified as. It's Democrat. We're a republic, but no, it's about democracy. That's a scam. So that's the Democrat, and it's liberal. They're saying right there, it's the Democrat liberal, and it's an order, and an order means follow orders. Democrat liberal order. You know, their branding is quite disclosing and honest. So when I find Republicans that are bought into the Democrat liberal order, which was pretty much all of us. I mean, I asked this question: did you vote for George W. Bush?
Yes.
Okay, great. Me too. So you're talking about people, their worldview is cracking. My worldview cracked right around weapons of mass destruction.
Right.
I said, wait a second.
Right.
We're killing millions of people on a lie. I think we got a problem here.
Yeah.
Okay. And for those of you who are younger or from another country, this goes back in my life all the way back to the magic bullet theory, because, you know, we bought a lot of BS over the course of my lifetime, and then it just ran out. But speaking of paradigms and shifts, paradigm shifts, paradigm is a worldview. Weltanschauung. Both of us participate in the Republican Party. I am curious, what is your history? Because you've emerged, you know, not as a celebrity, and, you know, the big money's not behind you. You're not a, you know, participant in globalist organizations, so they're backing you. No, you just came out of the muck and mire of Minnesota politics. So what is your background? What is your history? Going back to wherever you want to start.
I'll start with a story, a personal story that I've told often on the campaign trail. I might even have told you this story, but it sets the stage and creates a context as to the true genesis of why I'm so strongly involved and believe so much in maintaining and holding on to the real fabric of what we all should be holding on to. So I was in government class, and we were talking about the Constitution. We were doing all kinds of reading and discussions, some debating in class and stuff. And I got kind of keyed in on this constitutional republic phrase. And I kind of got keyed into how we can run for office, and then looking into the different ways to run for office and what age you have to be. For some reason, it just caught my attention, and I just fixated on it. And I got so excited. I'm just this poor kid we went to bed hungry more than fed for a long time. We were a poor family. And this poor kid from nowhere could just stand up and become president someday. And I was just turned on. I was so excited. And I went home, and I have the notebook still from my keepsake trunk. I have the notebook where I wrote down the first year I could run for president because of the elections. I had all calculated out the election cycle, my age, and what year. And I was disappointed because I realized, oh, I'm old enough now, but I can't run yet because the cycle won't be around until I'm this age. And I even wrote it all down. And so that genesis of getting involved in our constitutional republic and our freedom. And then I worked for Steve Swigum. Some people are very happy and knowledgeable about Steve Swigum, Representative Steve Swigum, who eventually became House Majority Leader and House Minority Leader, and works in the Regents Board and stuff like that. Some people have good things and bad things to say about him. But my point is, I got excited about just getting involved, and grassroots meant a lot to me because that's part of the genesis of why I've got involved with being with accessible. It was accessible to me. It was accessible to any of my friends, my family.
Any citizen could participate.
And it wasn't about kings and queens or the right blood or the right, you're born into this family or that family or the right status in your community. anybody and everybody could stand up and get involved if they had the courage and the willingness and the wisdom to just get involved and hold on to this. Maybe the phrase is used too much, but it's only we're only one generation away from losing our country, and that's true. And so that's what got me involved. I spent a lot of my life just kind of trying to grow up and become a productive citizen, teacher, principal, farmer, military member. But when I was in active duty, and to your point, what you said a little bit ago, where you started looking around us with some of this endless war stuff, and we've talked before that I was on the watch floor during Benghazi 9/11. I was on the watch floor for Crimea being taken, and knowing what I know from my intelligence background, that we could bore each other to death by the end of the day talking about. But the point is, the public has been sold such egregious lies at times that so one of our conversations today is centered around this. Our paradigm starts to crack, and then what do we do with that? Do we double and triple down and keep up the lie, or do we start to take it on and have enough courage to say, something's got to change here? So that brought me to being we've talked about before, the whistleblower of the daycare fraud in 2017, and then ran for governor in 2018. But I was involved when caucuses on up. And in those caucuses.
When did you first caucus? How old were you?
So it would be for Steve Swigum, would be, forgive us all. So that election cycle would have technically been in 1982, I believe.
So you actually, when you say for Steve Swigum, this was someone who you were involved with, and you went to caucus to become a Steve Swigum delegate, is what I'm hearing.
Well, yeah, but as a young age at that point, I didn't even fully comprehend what all I was doing. I was getting involved because I thought it was cool, and Steve had been in the classroom.
But
1982.
I mean, so that was the first time you actually got involved in politics at the grassroots level. So what happened? You went to caucus and you became a delegate?
Year, I was a delegate for the state convention. It's a little bit of a complicated system for people to first grasp, but we can simplify it, and part of our conversation, I think, today will lead to how to encourage people to get involved and not be too overwhelmed by it. The precinct caucuses that'll start in January, or actually February, sorry. My brain is on planning for January, and then February caucuses come, and you want to show up as a Republican or a Democrat. And a lot of times, many years ago, Democrats were down the hall in the school and Republicans were in the cafeteria or the gym.
When our social solidarity was a little bit better.
And, you could walk in, and even one year, I think there was even an independent party or something down the hall. And you all kind of walked in, said hi to each other, and you all went to your caucusing for your precinct.
And let me just say, Phil, sorry to interrupt. For the people that don't know, because a lot of people do not live in caucus states, and we got a lot of Minnesotans listening, and they have no idea what a caucus is. Caucus is simply a state process. It's actually a legal process of bringing citizens, allowing citizens, everyday citizens, to enter into the political process. Caucus means neighborhood meeting. I mean, to make a simple explanation, because you just said it's a little hard to understand. Well, one of the things we want to do at Free People Radio is demystify it. And let's just say right up front, there are people in both parties that want to keep it mystical, because the lack of citizen engagement is somewhat, in some sense, related to a lack of citizen understanding, how every citizen can determine through self-governance the future of this great country. And, there's certain people that want to encourage that. That'd be me. That'd be you.
Yep.
And there are people in the parties that do not want citizens, everyday grassroots citizens, coming in the party process, because guess what? It makes running things a little bit more complex.
Right.
You know?
Conversations are a little more difficult when you have to stop and listen first. You don't get your way all the time, and you have to try to create consensus, and it gets a little messy. It can even get a little ugly, but you come together and you have some conversation. You do have to have some boundaries. about just due process and people treating each other with respect. But at the end of the day, shared vision development or developing consensus can be messy, and it takes time. And too many people, and I call them the gatekeepers that are protecting a brand, for the most part, losing brand lately.
In this state, yes.
They just, I don't know their paradigm. I don't understand their paradigm. I don't understand. Some of it's just power hungry. Some of it's about money. A lot of it's about money, actually. So, and the reason the Democrats have been primarily successful at the alleged caucus process is because they've kept up the complete illusion that there is still a grassroots part of the Democrat Party, which there's not. There hasn't been for decades. They are a top-down organization. They give the illusion that they listen to the people, but they're a top-down organization that completely fixates on where their money's coming from. And so when you're compromised like that and you're not actually listening to the public, you give the facade that you're listening, but you're focused on and compromised by the money, which now Tim Walz is going to be the living example of that, because 99% of what he says is literally because he's getting paid to say it. That's my humble opinion. So back to the Republicans, I've been so excited about this grassroots process for so many years.
Started in 1982. That is
And
a
so,
while.
I've been disheartened. I've been disillusioned by some of the behaviors of people, and some of our people in the Republican Party are compromised. They're whether it's a candidate or a BPOU or the state structure, when you get yourself into a financial situation where you can't speak freely and do what naturally comes to you and what you're listening to the public about their perspective and their concerns, and you have to filter in or factor in, I can't touch this subject. That means this donor is going to probably not like that, or this big money, big pocket donation to the party is not going to support that, or this organization or that organization. When you have to start thinking like that, you lose, in my view, and now my experience again on the campaign trail, you lose the ability to be fluid, react properly, listen to people's concerns, and properly come up with a decision to do something about it. Because if I have to, everything from Medicaid stuff questions to elderly care to pharmaceuticals, if I have to start factoring in, if I say this way, this donor is probably not going to like that, and I'm going to get smacked on the head after I get done with this or that program, or I get done with this or that piece that I've written, you're compromised. It's the essence and the definition of being compromised, because now you're not thinking for the people, you're not making decisions for the people, and the grassroots process of caucusing, it then becomes contaminated and falls apart because you have people that are too worried about money. And right now, the unfortunate thing is we as a Republican Party are very tied to some financial concerns that is troubling to me. It's embarrassing, I hope, to some. But how are we going to recover from that? And to our point that we were talking about earlier today, we need to get to the point where more and more people are involved with the party. One of the pieces I wrote about the ERC money, the PCR, sorry, I'm thinking of two different terms here, but the political contribution reimbursement thing, I'm not taking that. I'm not participating in it. But my encouragement is to participate in the BPOUs and the congressional districts and the Senate districts. Use that PCR stuff for those local groups. So I think our shared message here is that come to caucuses, pay attention. The schedule starts. Get ready in January. Start getting ready to go to caucuses in February. Start getting ready to pay attention to create yourself a checklist of candidates, statewide offices, your local office. Get onto the Secretary of State's website. There's some good people, despite I don't have a lot of respect for Steve Simon. There's some good people that work at the Secretary of State's office. I know some of them personally. They're good people, and they still support, like me, this knowledge and this intent to have more and more citizens involved. Go to the Republican or Democrat. Go to an independent. Go to a marijuana party caucus. But go out and caucus. Get
Go
involved.
self-govern.
Yeah.
I mean, this is our whole style, our whole history. The whole point of the country is to give you the opportunity to participate in the governmental process. And I don't think people understand how powerful it is when you actually get, first of all, it's a redemptive process. When you give over to serving your community by participating in politics, because if you're in it for the money, it's not going to be a redemptive process because you're in it to win it for yourself. And that really typifies a lot of the people that are involved in politics. And why is that? Because you're not going. If you go a regular person, just a guy like me, I'm just working with the sweat of my brow to get my daily bread every day. You know, when people like that go and get involved, it's healing, it's healthy.
Yeah.
You're giving over to a process that goes back to 1776. You're part of something that's magnificent and enduring and really supernatural.
Yeah.
So, you know, I just urge everyone who's listening in Minnesota, in whatever state or country you're in, you have the power. There's billions of us, and there's a handful, just a handful of folks that are controlling we the people.
Yeah.
And if we would just understand that we've given them the power to do it.
Yeah.
They didn't take it from us. We gave it to them because we're, and you know, this, you know, working hard. You went to bed hungry. Your mother and father probably didn't have the time for it. You know, you have to make the time to do it. It has to be a priority.
Yep.
You have to make it the essential. Now, if it was, let's say, I don't know, 1955, there's different times where it's more or less critical. We happen to be living in a moment where it's ultra critical. But I want to go back. I want to hear. So 82, Steve Swigum.
Yeah.
What happened next in your walk through the party?
In college, I was semi-involved, but pretty busy. Out of college, being a teacher, I got more involved again because I was really seeing some things in education that was desperately going wrong. And that was, you know, Tim Pawlenty era. And terrible things that we could bore each other to tears with, all kinds of minutia.
You mean how our educational system went drove that into the ground?
Yeah, it was starting well before the Democrats. It was really, truly this globalist, odd concepts that started getting people excited about. I don't know if this means anything to anybody, but if you can do a research, my challenge for the audience is to do the research of when the phrase kiddos started coming out.
Oh, really?
I know that sounds really abstract, but do some research on when they started using the phrase kiddos.
Okay.
My kiddos, my kiddos, my kiddos. I don't know why, but from the very first time I heard that phrase at a conference, I was just hair in back of my neck and annoyed by that term. Another discussion.
But everybody, what Phil is saying is we have to do our own research when the lies are cracking, because who are you going to trust but yourself?
It's so right. So then that's a great way to stay on point with this question. So I get involved, I stay involved periodically, have been busy with work, especially when I was overseas on active duty, I couldn't be involved. And
wait a second, when you're overseas on active duty, you couldn't have been more involved.
Well, true. Yeah, right. And so gradually through that process and then becoming a whistleblower and then running for governor in 2018, I again went back to caucuses, became a delegate for the more local level. Then you can choose to go on and make your case at a meeting and become a delegate for a congressional district and so on and so forth up the chain. And, you know, there's different ways. You have choices. You can become just involved in the local BPOU or the local precinct. You can become involved in the congressional district, or you can become involved at the state level.
You bring up a very interesting point that I want everybody to focus on. Phil is saying that there's all kinds of roles to take in the path of self-governance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people think that they have to do X, Y, or Z. No, it's almost literally infinite in the different ways you can express yourself in governance. So you could choose just to work in your own neighborhood and organize your neighborhood, your neighbors. That, for me personally, I'm defaulting back to that myself because I have this big platform. So in my own neighborhood, I want to make my neighborhood, because what are we talking about? Why do we organize our neighborhoods? This is all about getting out the vote.
Mhm.
So so you've had this history, institutional knowledge of how the party works. You've been involved since '82.
Yep.
You've functioned as a precinct player. You've been a congressional district delegate. You've been a state delegate. You've run for office. I know you ran for state party chair at one point.
Yep.
You've really been involved.
Yep.
So you understand how the party works.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So my comment about this is, with all that institutional knowledge, let's say you get the endorsement. You're going to get primaried. I know it
Mm-hmm.
because you're not the chosen one,
Mm.
right?
Right,
So let's say you win, like Royce White won in 2024, and it took one day, and all the party stalwarts said we want to go a different direction. Wasn't that great for building party solidarity? So,
Yeah.
and just to say this, and I try not to rip on people. But this is why I'm not a big Kendall Qualls supporter, because I watched him at a governor forum where he says, I support the party process, and if someone else wins the endorsement, I'm going to support it. That's not what he did in 24. So, Kendall, who are you? I mean,
Mhm.
what are you? But my point is, how are you going to how do you win a primary? Because now we're talking about not an audience, now we're talking about generalship. How do you what are you doing to
Mm.
create the get out the vote? Because we
Yeah.
only have about a 20% participation
Right.
in an off-year primary election. That's another thing. That one frosts me.
Mm.
We're at the most important time in American history since at least 41, at least. Probably more important, which is a crazy thing to say, but we're really in a spot here.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have an off-year primary election in 26, and we're only going to get 20% of the Republican voters in this state, given history,
Mm.
are only going to, all that's going to come out to vote.
Mm.
What is your strategy? How do you
Yeah.
control that playing field so that you win that primary?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. So the first thing I'll unpack is this. I'll take a personal discussion at the forum from last Friday at the Jackpot Junction, and she's a state central delegate, and she was really concerned. She was arguing with herself more than me.
Slow down. Phil is talking about the state central committee meeting this past weekend. I was there,
Mm-hmm.
and on the Friday night before the meeting, there was a governor's forum. It was a gathering. Not to make this sound funny, but it was a gathering of the clan, so to speak. It was all the people
Yeah.
who participate as delegates
Yep.
and officers in the party came together at Jackpot Junction
Junction,
Casino
yeah.
in Great Morton, Minnesota.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful drive to get
Yeah.
there. I enjoyed driving there.
It was I had a great time. But this person, I can't remember her name. She was a lovely lady. She's been involved. She's a state central delegate, and she's even arguing with herself about, the process and the amount of money, the time, and endorsement or no endorsement. We're going to primary, and she was more arguing out loud with herself than necessarily arguing might not be the right word, but she was really taking on
She was conflicted.
this challenge that we have, which I'm actually excited about, because despite how the pundits might want to hold on to the paradigm of the past, the fact is more and more people, and I have not met a BPOU chair or congressional district chair. I've not met a single one that isn't more forthright about this now. 4 years ago, 8 years ago, chairs would have looked at me like you're the spawn from the devil, and don't you dare come in this room and don't talk to me. Now all chairs across
BPO, Basic Political Operating Unit,
Oh.
your neighborhood committee.
all across the state are like, eyes are open. Ooh, we've got a problem here. And so
And that problem is, Phil, can you describe that
so
problem?
the problem that the party has had what I would suggest from my analytical point of view is a contaminated or compromised process of moving away from. So hang with me, hear me out. Democrats have a total facade of grassroots, and they're nothing, not even close to grassroots. They're a top-down period, and they do all of their bidding to their top donors, period. They can lie and give the facade all they want. It's a top-down dictatorship, no holds barred, no analytics needed. It's fact. Republicans have had leadership that have walked this fence of like, how do they keep winning? And here's how they keep winning. But we don't want to admit to our constituents that it's all about top down, and it's easier to just tell the people what the message is and have our big donors. And so it fell apart. The grassroots has fallen apart, and it gets contaminated. And then the people that come to the party excited, like even during Scott Jensen's run, a lot of new people. Scott did a great job bringing in a lot of new people.
Bringing them into the party at caucus.
And then
citizens came into caucus, become delegates for Scott Jensen.
And they get to the state convention and they see what happened and they're disillusioned. And it's like, what did I waste my time and money for? Are you serious? This is what the party's going to do to each other? So my challenge for myself and my team has been to try and analyze this playing field in a way that's very forthright, transparent, and be upfront with people. I've been starting to talk about this years ago. If you look back at my podcasts and my writings, that this process, just like I'm talking about today, is contaminated and we got to do something about it. But the fact is we have what we have. We have a schedule that's in place for 26. We have to abide by that schedule. What things can we do something about, and what things are just off the table? I can't. If I'm coaching my team or trying to win the game, what can we do something about to win the game? Is it a pass pattern? Is it a run pattern? Is it, what can we do?
We're back to how do you win a primary? Is that what we're talking about?
So I know I'm meandering a bit, but the context is rooted in identifying how it goes wrong, what went wrong, what's repeatedly gone wrong, acknowledging it and doing something about it. So our team is built around the fact that we are going to a primary. Every candidate, whether they've done it publicly or privately, in writing or on camera, every single candidate, including Kendall, has openly discussed the fact that there's going to be a primary. Even Kristen Robbins is already talking that it's going to be a primary. So the
endorsement process.
Let's dispense with the anxiety about this endorsement or no endorsement and who's honoring it and who's not. Let's stop wasting people's time and energy. Get involved with caucuses. Go get involved with. It's perfect process still. Most of them with the the representative runs. Your state representative, powerful grassroots process. Why we've gained some seats, because we have powerful grassroots people all across House Representatives districts.
Some of them come right here to this podcast.
And they're great people and they're hard work, and those are the core. So back to how do you win? You drive into you lean into the people that work hard and win. And you lean into those people and support them and amplify them. And you stop focusing on these people that are holding on to this dysfunctional paradigm of what are you doing, and they won't get themselves out of it. So focus in on those people. We have a grassroots program ourselves with the county ambassadors. It's slowly growing at first. There's 87 counties. And so I believe we're up to, I don't remember how many published right now. There's 7 or 9 published. There's approximately another half dozen that are unpublished. So out of 87 counties, we're already getting up into the 20 ambassadors.
Where you have a committed
ambassador
who's going to work on
they're willing to publish their name, their phone number, email address.
And their role is to what? Get people to caucus or promote the campaign?
Get them to caucus, get information to interact with the BPOUs and the congressional districts within their county.
But really, they're there to take these citizens that they meet and say, look, if you want to be involved and make a change right now in this state, which is needing change,
Yep.
the first step is to become a delegate by going to caucus. And here's the way it works. You go to caucus, in most caucus rooms, neighborhood meeting rooms, if you just show up, you're automatically going to become a delegate because we don't have a full-strength party.
Yep.
So it's not like you're going to walk in there and be having a huge throwdown.
Right.
It's really the billets are empty. They're empty.
If you go to caucus and it ends up being a happy problem of there's so many of you,
great.
It's perfect, And I'll pick on the Democrats one more time to just kind of bring back to the point about the caucuses is why you'll notice something Tim Walz said the other day about, with this whole thing with the mayor thing and the fighting amongst themselves. Oh, we can't be fighting amongst ourselves. I'll tell you what. Democrats, if you're listening, go to caucus. Yeah, get the grassroots back make it a little messy. It's okay to be a little messy. Go out and take your party back, Democrats. Go out and take your party back away from these compromised people and get back to caucus. Independents, marijuana party, Republicans, those who have walked away from the Republican Party.
You're basically talking to all citizens. You're saying all citizens need to self-govern by going to caucus and becoming part of the process.
I wear purple, and purple is more and more of my campaign every day because, I know it sounds simplistic, but a little science experiment, you mix red and you mix blue, and what do you get?
Purple.
You get purple. And that's that centrist idea that I have that although it sounds simplistic to some people, it's just turning people on. I don't care if you're a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, a marijuana party. I don't care. It's just like I'm colorblind. I don't care the color of your skin. I don't care your origins of, and political affiliation.
As long as you're a citizen.
Stand up and do something. Just please do something. Inspire somebody. Walk up to a child and help them understand, right from wrong. And in that whole campaign that was in my head over a year ago of this has become solidly about right versus wrong, not left versus right. That people are walking up to me and saying it when I go to events. And
this is an interesting thing you're talking about. And I want to just, before we go back to the strategy and tactics of winning elections, because that's what I really want to talk about. Okay, so the cornerstone of that is if you want to win elections, you got to have delegates, because even though you're going to a primary, you'd like the Republican Party endorsement.
Yeah.
Because, and I lived through this because I was associated with the Royce White campaign in 2024. He won the endorsement on the first ballot. I watched how the party supported him. Not very much. Thank you, David Hann.
Yeah.
Because there was just enough that nobody could get wild about it. I mean, these people are professionals. They know what to do.
Yeah.
They know how to kick the legs out from underneath you and then catch you just before they hit the ground. It's a great technique. Anyhow, I want to bookmark, we're going to come back to strategy and tactics, but you said something that's philosophically very thought-provoking for me and triggering a little bit because purple, you're saying, but it's about where is the center? Because the center to me right now means the uni party, which means broad bipartisan agreement on expenditures, which leave me $37 trillion broke and in an endless war. And I got lots of kids and I don't want to see them die for some foreign adventure. So some other people make a lot of money, which is not really state politics, but I think you understand as a military member what I'm saying. So the center scares me. But I think what you're saying is, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're shifting the center to common sense, right and wrong ideas, which are being revealed by awful events like this assassination. It's like, who are these people celebrating a death? I mean, it doesn't matter. When you watch something like that, where is the solemnity and the reverence for life and the mourning of, who is happy when anybody dies? I mean, this is not my background. So I would say, whoa, that's wrong. Well, everybody sees it on full display. So tell me, am I right? Are you saying
So-
there's a new center that you're trying to get to?
Yeah, I wasn't approaching it that way in my logic stream, but you're bringing up a great point because it also connects to an article I wrote about words that wound. Look it up on the news tab on my parishformn.com.
Oh,
Wor-
social media. One more time. If you want to read Phil's writing, and he is a prodigious writer and a good writer, where do people go, please, slowly?
PARRISH, the number 4, mn.com. And on the news tab, if you typed in the search bar, words that wound, and what you're talking about is very powerful. Our words need to mean something again. And the way our society has, you're right, we're all guilty. We've let people get away with the use of words that's so intellectually and morally broken that you've got to start asking yourself a question. So am I recentering the center? I guess, yeah, if your vision or definition of center has become correct, this unification of uniparty and keep the endless wars and
Globalism
keep the globalism, nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. I want to
So
make
what
that.
I want to do is I want to reflect what I'm seeing on the campaign trail with engaging the public. People of all walks of life are coming to the events. They really are. It's not about their gender, their race, their color, their creed. They're literally coming to the events because they've kind of locked in on this concept of we are way into we got to start learning about what's right versus wrong and start supporting what's right versus and confronting what's wrong.
What's a word that wounds? Let's just take one concept.
Yeah. So my concept in the article primarily is like the no kidding reality of real abruptly, like the guns thing coming up again. Gun violence. It's an intellectually and morally broken phrase because guns are not violent. Reproductive rights, to cover up the discussion about abortion. That's an intellectually and morally broken concept. Words that lead people, and the Democrats are the primary drivers and offenders of this, but using words that play on people's emotions to get an emotional response and get a reaction and get people fired up and all wander around the axle. They don't care about the result of that word or the use of how they've twisted the word. It actually destroys and pulls apart the fabric of our communities. And we have to start dealing with this more openly and honestly. You can't run around saying fascism for every other thing that you see. You know, there's a mental health disorder called projection. You're projecting onto everybody else the thing you're the most guilty of. Tim Walz, you want to keep using the word fascist the way you're using it. You are the fascist.
That's a Saul Alinsky rule. Accuse your opponent of what you're doing yourself.
And it's so transparent, and so many people are starting to see that reality.
That's what you talk about. The paradigm is breaking down.
Correct,
That
yeah.
we're starting to see it. Tanner,
Yeah.
could you be sure? I know you're going to do this, but for everybody that's listening and watching, Tanner is going to put into the notes of the podcast
Description.
the description of the
Description.
podcast. Excuse me,
Yep.
sir.
Yeah.
All these different social links for Phil's social media sites. We're going to make sure that it's easy for you to find. We talk about this a lot on the Professor Penn podcast. Really a great one, a foundational one, is democracy.
Mhm.
We do not live in a democracy. We live in a constitutional republic.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as we made that shift, because all we hear now is, in fact, on the last podcast we played, and I didn't know if it was AI, but we had,
I watched it when I was editing. I'm
Eh.
pretty sure I was trying, when it starts going section by section, the whole screen goes to all the news anchors and
Yeah.
their voices are like synced up.
yeah,
If you follow slowly, you can follow whose voice is whose,
yeah.
and you can see that their lips are moving correctly. So I don't think that's AI at all.
So we played this clip
Yeah.
of national media.
It's a very well played clip.
Maybe you saw it, but
Yeah.
what they've said, as a danger to our democracy, a danger to our democracy. All these local news outlets, of course, they're aggregated and wound up and owned by private equity. So you might have 400 local stations owned by,
Exactly.
3 companies,
Yep.
and then they are able to drive a narrative, which is why these companies buy these local news stations, because they are propaganda outlets.
Correct.
But just the idea of democracy, which, is a word that makes us feel good, because it makes us feel we got to vote. But we don't live in a democracy. We live in this republic.
Did I tell you, Phil, that when I went to Illinois about kind of following this topic of using the word democracy, did I tell you about Abraham Lincoln?
Oh, no,
I don't
Phil's
think
not in
Okay,
it.
so I went to Illinois just to go see Abe Lincoln's grave and everything. I'm very fascinated in the man.
Yep.
And I went to get a biography of his. He doesn't really have autobiographies. He never wrote about himself. But the 5 that I picked up, the synopsis of the whole book was he protected the democracy. And that just twisted my gut, because I was like, this is the first Republican. He was the one to know that this was a republic, and people are now writing his words as if he was protecting the democracy.
And then we played on the podcast the famous Bixby letter, which he wrote to a woman who lost, I think, 4 sons in the war. And, he said something like, you can take some solace that your sons died in defense of our republic. So in his own writings, he spoke. But another word is equity. Equity. Equity doesn't mean we're all the same. The twisting of these words, and people have to understand, some very, very smart people are in our academic institutions working on ways to change reality by words that won't.
Yes. So yeah, I hope everybody reads that piece that I wrote, because it's powerful stuff. And I'm not a new person at saying this stuff. Abraham Lincoln knew this kind of stuff. People what I find the most powerful thing that I'm inspired to actually talk about as effectively as possible over the next 12 months is helping people to walk away from those terms that they've been indoctrinated with and start to doing their own research, their own thinking, their own decisions. Because to your point with strategy, we have to get to the point where we're never going to win if the majority of people aren't making their own decisions, listening to the candidates for themselves. Stop listening to the pundits. Stop listening to the reporter. Start making decisions for yourself. Then we will win. If we continue down the path of just letting the pundits create the narrative, we're never going to win. Because back to the words that wound, you're talking about people that knowingly twist words with intent to harm. They'll sell it to you that they're here for the greater good, but they know for a fact that they're creating harm and dissent and division and controlling how people think about a topic.
This is not necessarily limited to one group.
No.
It's many groups use this.
Correct.
And this is why I say on this podcast, I don't need agreement. I'm okay with disagreement. What I am fundamentally opposed to is exactly what we're talking about: manipulating people with ill intent,
Right.
and lying,
Right.
with ill intent.
Right.
Because there's telling untruths by accident, and I know every time I do that on the podcast, I read something that's not 100% correct, or it's not right. I feel awful about it, because I understand how important searching for truth is. And this is why I'm so happy you're here, and any other candidate that wants to come in here and discourse honestly, transparently, hey, you're welcome here. Don't give it all to Phil, but hey, Phil's the only one that comes. Hey, too bad for you. You guys are missing the point. But you're all welcome here. But if you come in here and you lie to me and use these words that wound, maybe you don't want to show up.
Yeah.
Because I will not take a back step.
Yeah.
When people are intentionally misleading. I don't like that.
You're kind of saying something that brings me back to that strategy conversation too, is these people are making a grave mistake, because one of the things we're seeing on the campaign trail is I'm definitely locked solid in on don't dismiss people. Don't dismiss people because of some false conclusion or paradigm you have about because of the way they look or the way you think they sound or the way somebody told you that they present themselves. Don't dismiss people. So yeah, they're making a big mistake by not coming here. By the way, if there's anybody out there that has asked me to come to a program or to an event and I
You
can't
go.
get there, I'd go. But literally, I'm excited to tell you, it's not boastful, but I'm excited to tell you, if I say I can't get there, it's because I literally have at least one, if not two events that same day or evening. So, or it's literally, all the way up in the tip of Minnesota north, and they want me to be in Winona, almost an hour
You're trying to
apart.
get out with the people as
So-
much as you can. I mean, the
so
people need to see it. that-
if I ever miss a program or miss an episode or miss an invitation, it's not because I wasn't wanting to go. It's literally there's only one of me, and I can only get to so many things a day.
Well, this words that wound thing, we need. I am looking for leaders. There's more to this than getting elected.
Mm.
I mean, it's about changing the culture of our state to encourage citizens into this self-governance process. So these ambassadors, these county ambassadors, is that part of their mission to get their local friends and neighbors and co-workers to get
Yeah.
them to go to caucus and caucus for Phil Parrish?
Yeah,
Is that
so
part of it?
there's actually a tab on the websites that's devoted to the county ambassadors where you can read more about what our expectations are. And to summarize, it's essentially an extension of the team and able to then articulate some of the primary objectives, some of the primary goals, help people understand caucus process better, help people understand the calendar and the upcoming events in their local level, so that as it progresses up into the state level and state convention and then to the primary, they have a little bit better understanding. It's disappointing to me to go out to events across the state where some people that haven't been very involved, they're starting to get involved and they're very inquisitive. But some people that have kind of been involved, sometimes for a long time, and they have a lack of understanding of the process themselves, and they've been involved. So it's kind of disheartening. So my message to anyone that wants to get involved, you're not alone. Don't be afraid of it. There's people that have been involved for 20 years that don't understand the process.
Well, no, wait. This is another. Let's bookmark and stop for a second, because I have very good insight into this, and this is not an arrogant statement. This is an experiential statement. I should name names because I don't like some of these people, but I'm going to leave it to the side. But I said here in my Senate district, SD45, before I was voted out of it because I'm controversial, which is cool. That's politics. I said to the people, we're going to post up on our website a flow chart of how the Republican Party works, because it's really not that complicated. And a very involved member in the party said, we're not going to do that. And I said, why?
Hmm.
Well, that's our secret. We don't want people to know how the party works. I go, are we running a secret society here? Or are we running a citizen grassroots organization to bring people into politics? In this man's mind, who's a lawyer, very involved in all the high end of the party, it is a secret society. And this I reject completely.
Yeah.
So to that end, I'm going anywhere in this state, anytime, any place anybody invites me, not as a candidate, just as someone that's trying to promote citizen self-governance. And I'm running my own meetings, which you're always welcome. The next one is September 24th at Devani's on Highway 7 at 6 p.m. I'm organizing my neighborhood. You're welcome to come. This is what we got to do. It's a peer-to-peer. And what we do at that meeting is, please come in. We're going to talk about how you can get involved. So I guess I'm not going to be your ambassador. I got to be neutral. But I mean, I'm running it for my own political constituency here in my neighborhood. I want my neighbors to learn from what I've experienced. And I had a mentor. I had a mentor in the party, like you had political mentors. If they're not going to write it down so you can study it, you have to be lucky enough to find somebody. Otherwise, you might bang around for 20 years and have no idea how it works. And that, to me, is a tragedy, a waste of human capital.
Yeah. And especially if there are people that are keeping it a secret. I mean, it's really troubling because that's not how our constitutional republic was built. It's not how our state constitution was built. It's not what we were to be about. We, the people, are the government.
I mean, you
is
can't
what
have
it's
any more
supposed
of
to
a
be.
you can't have any more of a secret than at State Central. You weren't there. We spent the morning talking about the destruction of all the party data.
Mm.
It was all, and I didn't pay a lot of attention to this
Yeah,
because this
there's-
is part of the opaque black box.
So there's something very strange that's gone on for a very long time. And whether it's this gentleman that you mentioned or what you witnessed at State Central, the destruction of data, there's this odd, I don't know what to call it. It's an oversimplification, but protecting the brand. Well, what brand are you protecting?
The
What-
Washington Generals.
And it's just strange how people have sold themselves into this narrative and paradigm that just has been so dysfunctional and unsuccessful that they won't step away from it. But there are people stepping away. So back to like what I was saying, you're going to the more local level. Most of the local level, I haven't met one yet on the campaign trail that isn't like this. Everyone I've met on the campaign trail at BPOUs to congressional districts to Senate districts, their eyes are open. The dysfunction is real. The lack of financial stability is real. And they're wide open to the fact that, yeah, we need to keep this more open to people, get more people involved. So we're primed and ready. And the county ambassadors just dovetail into that. Your concept of getting out there and leading your community dovetails onto this, what's really happening. And it's really, truly, people even in the Twin Cities areas are coming to events that are formerly Democrats. Independent Party, Marijuana Party formerly, they're coming to events because they know they need to be involved. And I think it's going to get exciting. I think 2026 is going to be very inspiring for people. I think people are really going to come around and say, hey, I get it. This is a real movement. People have to, take off the rose-colored glasses or the blinders and just come to events and get involved.
I had a very unpleasant experience at building on what you're saying. There are people clinging to this paradigm. They won't let go of it. I had a woman walk up to me, I've already forgotten her name because that's where she needs to be, forgotten. She walked up and excoriated me. She said, I'm so opposed to you. I'm so tired of this circular firing squad in the party. We're all Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, after the primary, we're all Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
Until then, we're fighting for the future of this party. And I'm not taking a back step because you're going to tell me I'm participating in a circular firing squad. We're not going to get the kind of change that we need to have a winning party unless we display. It's not about display. It's about bringing new people in and young people in.
Yeah.
Young.
Yeah.
We need young people. So, this clinging to this, you call it a brand. It's been a losing brand. Now, what's interesting about 26, God bless him, people get martyred. It changes the playing field when people get martyred.
Yeah.
And when people, even leftists see the response, they have to start asking themselves, who am I hanging around with here?
Right.
Because this is a separating event that we've just gone through.
Mm-hmm.
So 26 does hold electoral possibilities.
Yes.
But they're not necessarily because of the current structure of the Republican Party. It's the zeitgeist of the time. The paradigm is shifting.
Yes.
And what I'd like the party to do is to get out in front of that and go to where the play is going to be, not try to hold everybody back to what was.
Yeah.
I want the party to project, where are we going to be 2 years from now? What are we going to do with the young people that are coming up and are not supportive of Israel? This is an issue because if you talk to this younger generation, they're not into that. So if the party clings to that, how are we going to resolve that? For example, that's just one political issue amongst many. And even though it's an international issue and a federal issue, it affects the membership and the participation in your party, the Republican Party, which you would like the endorsement. I'm correct.
Yep.
These are important issues.
We're going to lean into the local level, and that's what the party should do. The party should lean into the local level.
The local issues.
And the local issues. So when it comes down to the precincts and the BPOUs and the congressional districts, State Central needs to step away, step out of the fray. Don't dictate, don't try to manipulate, let the local level grow and build and stop being gatekeepers, because you are protecting a brand or a notion or a way of doing business that has proven to be a losing way of doing business.
I got a comment, and I'm going to ask you a question. Would you consider for me to be a political activist? Would I be?
See, I don't like the word activist. I hear that word a lot.
Well, what word do you like? Engaged?
To me, you're an educator. To me, you're a teacher. To me, you're a mentor. That's what we need to be for each
I like
other.
that.
Because we are not. There again is one of those words the political spectrum has chosen to manipulate into a catchphrase or into.
I've been manipulated. No, really. I mean, that I would prefer to be thinking of myself as an educator. That's why it's called the Professor Penn Podcast, because I'm trying to educate, and you've just liberated me from a word that is wounding. But in my own district in SD45, where I've brought a lot of people into the party, I've been very active for quite a while. They don't like me. And I'll tell you why they don't like me. I bring change. Education brings change. And so I've got a core of people in my own backyard that don't want that change. They are resisting it with everything they have.
Yeah, and my encouragement, not that I'm here to encourage you really personally, we're peers, we're not, but I would say stop focusing on the people that don't like you, because the fact is that the people that do like you are far outnumber the people that don't. But
unless those people that like this message get into the political process, it's not that I'm against these people. I don't even consider, I can't remember their names. I want new people.
Yeah. So I'm going to personal story, Lake Marion at the ballroom. That event went very well. Great crowd. Got all done. Had a great time. Had such a good response. 48 hours later, I pull open this email from a lady that was at the event, and she just kind of like your experience, just eviscerating me about, and it's all like talking points of the last 20 years all piled together in this email that are clearly the most unsuccessful paradigm in 20 years of the Republican Party. And she's just nailing every word of it like a script. I don't focus on that. I focus on the gentleman, I think of his name now, the gentleman that owns the place now. He was just on fire and excited and hadn't been involved with the process. He literally bought the Lake Marion ballroom for like just out of curiosity and wanting to get people involved and kind of bring back some good times. He has a wonderful story about the Lake Marion ballroom. And you focus on those people. You focus on what's right and good and things that are uplifting and inspiring. And you take these people and that are really, I call them the happy helpers of my day.
Okay.
That really negative person that just in the back of your mind, you're going, do I say out loud what I'm thinking? No, stop. That's my happy helper. My happy helper is reminding me how to exercise good skills and try to get through
that. Reminds me of a story. I was out with my family when my daughter was 3-4 years old, and we were on vacation in a beautiful place in a crowd of people at night. And I have this she's so beautiful. This girl is now at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. She's brilliant. She's about 3-4 years old, and a bird flew overhead, and she just had bird poo all over her face, in her hair, and the look in her eyes was she was just horrified. And her mother looked at her and said, "You're so lucky. Of all these people in this square, that bird crapped on you. You are so blessed." The happy helper concept. That's great. I have to.
Yeah.
That's my favorite memory. One of my favorite memories because it was so appropriate. Because it's such a bad feeling. No, we're going to make this feel good, and that's what
Yeah.
you're doing. And I'm going to learn from that. I'm going to tell you
Well-
right now. No, I'm going to learn because I get a lot of negative feedback,
Yeah.
and what I'm trying to do is become a more unified and positive force in Minnesota politics. So that's how you do it.
We talked about something that I can't remember was on camera or off camera now, but we talked about something that switched in here and
For you personally.
months ago, and you've recognized it. You've seen it in me from.
Well, I've known you
years
for a
ago.
long time.
And I was trying to articulate it, and I don't know if I can perfectly articulate, but yeah, something in here because of a bad experience I had, and I'm kind of the person, like I told you earlier, you tell me that it's not possible because I'm a boy or a man or a white or blue or tall or short.
Someone's putting a limitation on you.
Tell me I can't do it. I'm gonna figure out a way to do it. And so that was part of the shift. But part of the shift in my brain, I think we've just talked about before. 2017, 18, I was angry. People could see it. Just I was angry, and I was motivated. I was properly motivated. I had the right ideas. I had the right concepts, but that anger was kind of like the aura was more anger.
Off-putting.
And so something happened with me in a personal conversation and some challenges that I was trying to overcome. And it's kind of that, yeah, you tell me I can't do it and I'm going to figure out a way. My brain just clicked. And part of it was this concept. I'm not going to embarrass the person, but a similar concept happened. I was saying, this is how I've chosen to do this. And I started calling it my happy helper concept. And now my friend, he's starting to use that same concept and now if you take it on, great.
No, I think it's a very, very interesting thing because you meet so much resistance and it can make you angry.
And because
it's if you take it the other way,
yeah,
it's quite motivational and uplifting.
And so you and I are seeing this spectrum of, is it just innocent naiveness, happenstance, bad paradigm, bad conclusions, or is it malice? My brain so many times gets focused in on who's
behind
harm,
this scam,
who's sending harm, and your blood starts to boil, and you're going after that. Who's doing harm? Your nature is to protect and defend. But then sometimes when you react too quickly, you miss the person that was just kind of innocently, oh, that was a bad conclusion. And could you rethink that? Because that's really not what was going on. And my lesson to myself in the last year has been, I have to get better at helping not just myself, but the person I'm engaging. Let's get past this false conclusion. And is it just innocent misunderstanding, or it's about discernment? And God has given us the gift of discernment if we choose to turn it on. And if I'm discerning, oh, now I have a pattern. The person not only is demonstrating a pattern of this is an innocent mistake, this is a pattern of I'm intending harm, intending confusion, contending,
we can't do very much with those people, can we?
Then I can approach the conversation from a different point of view and I can diffuse. I might not get anywhere, but I can at least de-escalate and I'll get hooked. But if I get hooked on the innocent conversations where it's just misunderstandings, we miss an opportunity to evangelize. We miss an opportunity educate. We miss an opportunity to unpack the false understanding. And for whatever reason, something switched in my head with talking with Father Corey that day that just, and I went home that night and it was just.
Let's not generate a lot of anger about the people we can't convince. Let's talk to the people that have reached false conclusions under. That's a very good point. That is great.
And Charlie, I'm not new to this. And, Charlie Kirk, whether he would have articulated it this way or not, or Joe Rogan or Elon Musk or yourself, we may not have, we're all essentially saying the same thing. If we aren't willing to have the conversation, Charlie Kirk has a couple of great snapshots of this concept. If you aren't having the conversation, if you're not willing to engage, then, the humanity part, the human condition gets kind of overlooked and just completely crushed. And But that's where the bad person wants you to be. That's where
In conflict.
That's the devil wants you to be,
In conflict.
in that crushing the conversation, crushing the opportunity to come to agreement, crushing the opportunity to unpack a misunderstanding.
Keep us divided.
Yeah. And so if we have people around us that are those good people who help us unpack misunderstandings, unpack false conclusions, unpack a paradigm that's like, where did that even come from? And then your light bulb goes on. Yeah, the Charlie Kirks of the world scare the bad people. They scare the devil because at the end of the day, he doesn't want that going on. He doesn't want you opening your eyes. He doesn't want you to unpack a misunderstanding. So evil does not want you to see light.
The veil. Evil, the veil of the
evil wants you to pretend that there's light, pretend that there's understanding, pretend that there's a good vision, but it's not genuine. And that's in essence Tim Walz right now. Tim Walz is you see his infomercial, his opening thing to run for governor.
I haven't yet.
Oh my goodness, it's going to make you ill.
Thank you.
Should I pull it up right now? We can watch it together.
You can pull it up.
All right,
We'll watch.
you guys continue talking. I'll get it
before we. Can you just give me 1 second because we're going to get so far downstream. I'm going to miss two things I want to interject here. Number one, are you familiar with a name Dan Schultz? Dan Schultz. You'll look him up. It's research for you. Dan is the progenitor of the precinct strategy. He just took something that is American civics and he's been trying to popularize citizen engagement. And Dan has a very good point. We know what the issues are. What are the strategy and tactics to take things to the next level so that the citizens get involved? And you're smiling because we're talking about that. And Dan's going to come on my text at about, 9 o'clock tonight when this, and he said, well, this is better. Because he doesn't like it when I come on and talk about issues. He wants a full-throated strategy and tactic. How are you going to win a primary? That's right. That's which we're going to come back to. But the other thing, and Dan will forgive me for asking this because you said something quite thought-provoking. God has given us the power of discernment if we turn it on.
Yeah.
How do you turn it on? How do you think that gets turned on?
You start opening.
First of all, what is discernment? Let's start there.
Discernment.
Because people really need to know what it is.
Yeah, and it's not something that is easily come by. It is uncomfortable. You have to learn to be vulnerable. You have to be okay with being vulnerable. You have to be okay with being wrong. So if let's take a simpler analogy of developing a discernment. I'm a farmer, grew up on the farm, so it's easy to analogize, easy for a young person to conceptualize because of experiences on the farm. You see a problem, maybe there's something going on with the animals, something going on with the piece of machinery, something going, and you start to think, well, what's exactly wrong here? And through discernment, you actually investigate. It's kind of like an analogy of a science experiment. You start to have some hypothesis, you start to create some ideas, you create a little experiment. It worked out, it didn't work out, I was right, I was wrong, and you build on that. Spiritually, there's a whole other aspect to discernment that is easy to talk about discernment where you can put it in front of you and the glass is half full or the glass is full. I can conceptualize something that I'm doing in an experiment. But spiritually, there's another piece of that's very important for this time because when we're talking about evil and good, when we're talking about the intent of a person, it's not tangible. I can't I have this much salt, I have this much vinegar, I have this much, and create this experiment and see the results. When you're talking about spiritual things, and we can't be afraid of that anymore, I know it's not tangible, but you have to allow yourself to be vulnerable and dig into it because if you don't deal with, this has been a perfect time to talk about this subject because you're seeing people who now since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, people are having a really tough time articulating what's going on. What am I feeling? What am I seeing? I've seen podcast people who have said, I've never watched him before. This one lady was saying, and when I saw this, she went on and on about how she's heartbroken. And although she had never watched him before, it has completely changed her life. So what has happened is that spiritual part of us has awakened a bit in our communities and in our nation. And people are wondering, what am I feeling? Why do I feel this way? I didn't even know him. And they're trying to answer questions that they don't have like a physical set of things to discern, but that spiritual discernment of there's something going on here that I can't put into words. It's powerful stuff. And we don't have enough people around us who are actually talking about that and helping people through it. And lately, that's why I've written so many of the articles that I've written, is because not because I'm trying to be like the person to do that. I'm doing it for myself as much as I'm doing it for anybody else,
Yeah.
because I'm feeling it too. And I don't know if you guys have been feeling it, but the last 4 or 5 weeks have felt heavy.
Yeah.
They're
I
just-
think after the school shooting that we just had in Minneapolis, that hit me really hard. And then the Charlie Kirk situation happened. I was also in the boat that I never really watched Charlie. I only ever saw his clips from if there was a popular clip that came by. But I think the best way that it was put, and I think a lot of people feel this way, and maybe they don't realize they feel this way, is because deep down as a Republican, there's a lot of times I just hold my tongue, but I'm like, no, I know this is right, and I believe it with all my heart. I should say it.
Right.
I think a lot of Republicans have that confidence, and Charlie was the one that had that confidence.
Yep.
And now that we saw him assassinated, and then we see people celebrate it, we're now at war thinking, man, would someone celebrate my death? You know, because I agreed with a lot of what that man said. So I think that's where people are really feeling really heavy about it, even if they never really watched.
Like it was a personal assault on them. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like I think, which is like tough, because I don't know if like people should take their politics and make it their whole personality or anything, but I think that Republicans have been on the back burner of hold your opinions because you might offend somebody. But
Yeah.
a lot of times we know that it's the right thing. If we're talking about Jesus, if we're talking about family structure, whatever it is, a lot of us believe very strongly in our beliefs, but we've held our tongue to be nice.
Right.
Charlie was the one that didn't do that.
And back to the article, Words That Wound, I dig into that a little bit, where we've been sold this paradigm that that has exploited our decency, our common sense, our courtesy, our virtues. And Charlie was brave enough and had enough courage to say, no, I get it, but we have to have this conversation.
Yeah.
And too many Republicans or too many people, because again, to me, it's not about Republican and Democrat, because Democrats are way more sold on it than Republicans.
Mhm.
Democrats have totally bought the entire concept that, yeah, we can't offend this, we can't offend it, to the point where they're actually offending the people they tried not to offend.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
You know,
That makes
and
sense.
so they've bought into this concept to the point where they've made our governance a god.
Mm.
They've built their concept about right and wrong off of putting their faith and trust in an institution that is contaminated, compromised, and flawed. And again, this comes from a personal conversation from a mentor. Once our institutions become our God, and it's the globalism, it's all the things that we've already talked about is all packed into that. And why people can't walk away from it, because they believe with all their hearts and minds that I'm a bad person if I insult somebody. No.
No.
My argument is you're a bad person if you don't walk up and say, especially as parents to children, young man, young lady, that is wrong. And you can kick, you can scream, you can yell, you can whatever you want to do, be nasty all you want. What you just did is wrong. And as a parent, as a leader, as a community leader, as a governor, as a legislator, if Charlie Kirk is the best example of, let's have the conversation. That is wrong. And here's how. And most of the time, what's really exciting about watching Charlie's conversations is the person who's trying to argue actually argue themselves out of their false paradigm. And you can see I love the body language. I just love it, because the ones that really did change during the conversations, you can see their face just go, oh crap. She just talked me into exactly what I was saying no to.
And he's so disarming. What do you call it? The happy helpers?
Happy helpers.
I mean, he would take, these are his happy helpers because he
was
has to.
definitely in debate club in high school. Like watching his, now that I've delved into more of his clips, he is a professional debater. He'll sit there with a smile after like screaming at someone and they're getting all tense and stuff, and the timer goes off and he's like, that was a really good point. Good job. He was definitely in debate class.
But you know what? This goes back to the idea of discernment, because to know right from wrong sometimes demands discernment.
Yeah.
And I asked you to talk about it because one of the things as an educator, you made me kind of liberated me from this activist thing.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes I say, well, I'm a community organizer. I mean, I'm just like Barack Obama, huh? No, I'm not. I'm into educating. Well, you know what I'm really into? I'm into exploring for myself and searching for truth myself. And everybody gets to come along with this ride I'm taking because it's about me becoming the best me. That's really what I'm focused on doing.
Yeah.
But the discernment issue, it's time that we, the people, understand that this whole edifice that we're caught up in is got nothing to do with God. The whole concept of spiritual has been removed from our institutions.
Right.
That's the predicate.
Yeah.
And so then when people start worshiping something that is not imbued with any divine attributes, we're going down a difficult path. And interestingly, that can happen religiously too.
Yeah.
I mean, there are, entire religious groups that make so much of certain aspects of the quote unquote the word. And I'm just going to I'm not going to get down on my own group.
Right.
I mean, okay, it's great to be educated, but you can get so educated, you lose the ability to hear and discern right here, right now, because there's precedent and then there's change. The world does have a process of change. We're in this moment of change. So discernment, the discerning thing, just because I want to do my educational thing, is when you say you have to be willing to be wrong, that's a very important part of it. Because, and I say this all the time, maybe I'm just analyzing myself. When I'm using discernment, maybe this is not correct because you don't, you get it right, hopefully more than you get it wrong, but you're leaving the orthodoxy and trying to move out using a spiritual insight to gain information. But matter is information, and we're all connected. They call it the World Wide Web. They didn't make that up. That World Wide Web concept goes back to old Europe, Old Norse. It's Old Norse magic. Everything's connected, and you can move forward in time, backward in time. There's information everywhere, and we can tap it. And if you grew up on the farm, you know it, because there's no being a farmer and not having that discernment,
right,
or nothing lives.
Right.
but I do want to say, because we're going to run out of time, I do want to end with more strategy and tactics, because I am moved by what Dan Schultz is saying. The other side of that coin is, Dan, we need a big audience. So if we just do strategy and tactics, we're not going to build that army of people that are going to implement the strategy and tactics. But we do have an army. We got a Phil Parrish army. So how are you going to take your ambassadors, your team, your supporters? How are you going to organize them, A, to win the endorsement, and then B, to prevail in the primary where we're only going to have a 20% voter turnout? What is your strategy and tactic?
The core foundation is building relationships, and it is something that I've been building for a long time, quite frankly, because some of my best supporters now were some of my adversaries in 2018, and it took time for them. It wasn't about me. It was them and their paradigm shifting and changing and understanding, ooh, Phil was actually right about the fraud in 2017 and 2018. The county ambassador is going to be very important. The depth to Dan's onto something. I don't remember his last name.
Schultz,
Dan
Schultz.
Schultz is onto something in the sense of depth. What he's looking for is depth and a plan. One of the things that I learned through just observing and then making mistakes myself, when I talk about issues or I write about issues, which you can attest to because you've read a lot of them, I don't just pontificate about what's wrong. I actually, every single thing I write, I intentionally look for a plausible alternative or some suggested plan to go after solving the problem, because anybody can stand on stage or anybody can go to the bar stool and whine and complain all day long. But I think what you're noticing and Dan's noticing and lots of people like us are noticing, we have to have a plan. Another thing, I don't even remember if it was you that said it, or I think it's actually, I do know who it was said it first, but one of my supporters said, Phil, you need to start acting like the governor. And I thought, well, that's a little arrogant, but but then he explained more, and it really switched something in my brain. So how we're going to win is we are acting like we're winning. We are, everything we're doing is going to be geared around the fact that we're walking in on day one with the 100-day plan, with the people lined up for the positions that are appointed by the governor, the lists of people that are going to be then vetted by the congressional ones that have to go through the House of Representatives and the Senate. Every single one of those people, I'm making every effort to have all lined up before I get there. And although that sounds abstract or ahead of the cart and the horse not connected, it's actually very connected. Because what that does is it starts to build comfort for the people who are not bad actors in our institutions. They're hardworking people that care. They need to know the candidate's got an idea of how we're going to keep the team running, keep the machine going, fix the tractor in the field and get the hay baled and on the hay mow. It's not a good feeling to be in the middle of the field and the storm's coming and the tractor's broke and no one that can fix the tractor is anywhere to be found. It causes discomfort although our institutions have lost a lot of trust with people, there's still good people in there, and they need to know that they have someone coming in to have good people that are going to be there to help them and have their back, help them lead and solve problems, and not just leave it for the hearing yesterday with the fraud hearing. Oh, bless them all. I don't mean to disrespect people, but
give us more money so we can stop
honestly,
the money getting robbed.
If that's the intellect and logic stream of how to go about tackling fraud, we're in for big trouble. And
there's more fraud coming.
And
out.
I know that I'm not alone. So these people that are in the background that never get heard from or never get any attention or never get seen in the background that are working hard, Secretary of State's office, the Justice Department, Department of Human Services, there's good people in the background that know what's right and wrong, but they don't have anybody there that's actually effective and efficient and actually getting the job done. It's about having enough merit. All this DEI stuff is just destroyed our culture. It's destroyed our institutions. You have to have people that have demonstrated have merit to be there, and that know
that's
what
that
they're
right and wrong thing you're talking about.
And it's just watching that hearing yesterday, I just walked away going, wow. We've got a lot of work to do, people. So we're going to have good people in place. We're going to engage those people, and that's going to grow people being involved with the party as well, or with me and the team, but with Republican Party, it's going to grow people's involvement because you start tapping on people. You're going to be commissioner. You're going to be a commissioner. You're going to be the head of this department. Each one of their friends and their family members are going to say, he wants you to be the commissioner? And then that's going to multiply conversations and multiply. So that's why the county ambassadors are so important, speaking and writing with depth and plan, involving these people. I want the whole team picked before we even get anywhere close to the primary. And
these people then, of course, know they're part of something,
Yeah.
which you're, tell me,
Now-
implicitly, are you saying that will motivate them to be more engaged participants?
more
in the
engaged
process?
and more willing to say, oh, he actually has something to say or actually has something he can do.
Which they can then proliferate at the grassroots level, peer to peer.
Because one of the most important things that all of us have been witnessing, but few people are taking on, is the reality is we have limited time, we have limited willingness, limited financial capacity, and people literally are the most effective people I'm running into. They don't have time to waste with hours and hours of meetings and talking in circles. They want somebody to help them make a decision and move forward. And those are the people that I'm counting on, and that's how we're going to win is people that are just motivated to get up and get the job done. Yeah,
Ultimately, to close out the podcast, we're going to be in a primary.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're seeing it coming.
Yep.
You win the endorsement, you're going to get primaried,
Yep.
right? More or less.
It's
Almost
all the
certainly.
candidates have already written and said that they're going to the primary, so it's a done deal already.
Okay.
It's just
So how do you get out the vote for Phil Parrish in that primary when we only have a 20% voter participation rate? What's the strategy? Because get out the vote is ultimately what the party is about.
Yeah, yesterday's special election is concerning to me because there's some fact to the fact that how many people actually show up in such and such special elections and off of the presidential year. There is some truth to that, but I think some of it's a false paradigm. I actually wrote a piece on his success of winning the special election yesterday. Lee is his last name.
Yeah.
There's some actual really disturbing data points that came out of yesterday's special election.
Which would, for those of you, we had this awful this round of killings that
Hortman's assassination
Yes.
led to this special election. Lee won yesterday,
if you're international listener or viewer, we had a terrible assassination of our House Speaker, Melissa Hortman, and a state senator was shot, grievously wounded. Melissa Hortman's husband was also killed, so that forced the special election to replace her, so unfortunately, and the Democrats prevailed. I think it was like a 60-40 split. Was that
something
correct?
like that, like a 20% difference in the outcome. But again, to your point, the turnout, there's something about the numbers. Please read my article. It's but because there's no way I can rehearse and to tell you exactly, but I pointed out some specific data points that cause people to think, there's something not quite right here with the results and the amounts of people and the amounts of votes and the amounts of people that didn't vote. There's something very questionable about what happened yet again. And so I think
you're questioning the election integrity of
absolutely 100%, not shy about it at all. Please read the article because it's very discernible.
Okay, so
very discernible.
So you're saying, if I'm understanding correctly, that special election, from your perspective, is just another data point of potential voter irregularity.
It illustrates some implausibilities that can't be ignored. And it's got to be talked about more openly, and they have to clean the vote. I back to my memorandum that I wrote to President Trump. I'm not saying it has anything to do with his executive orders he wrote, but the legislation that got passed about election integrity has teeth in it, and I am counting on President Trump. I'm counting on Pam Bundy. I'm counting on Kash Patel to follow through with those election rolls and clearing those rolls. If we don't clear the rolls,
voter rolls, the lists of eligible voters.
We do not clear the voter rolls,
clean them up,
and clean it up. It doesn't matter how good we are. It doesn't matter if God himself stands beside me. We're not going to win because they will cheat again. And they've repeatedly cheated. And yesterday's results is another data point in that they haven't gotten it right yet. Steve Simon can say all he wants to say. It's a lie. Read my piece. It has clear data points in it that are just simply statistically impossible.
No, if in a functional Republican Party, when I say functional, on a statewide basis, in our own local areas, wouldn't that be a primary driver of the local units to work to clean up these voter rolls?
Mm-hmm.
And is that happening?
Nope, not yet. But if Pam Bundy, if they finally get Steve Simon to cooperate with turning over the rolls, which is a very interesting, I wrote about that too, is a very interesting how they demand, hey, we need those. And then Steve said, no, you can't have them. And then a few days later, we had the big cyber attack where oh, really? And now we've had no discussion about the voter rolls since the cyber attack, allegedly.
You're dragging us out into some very deep water for the end of the podcast. It almost means you're going to have to come back because, why don't you study that article? Because this is really, now we're getting into something that is an action item.
Mm-hmm.
We do have people in the state of Minnesota that are actively engaged with this. I ran a thing of educational programs for the party. I really didn't want to run it through the party, but my political mentor said, you're an officer, you got to run this through the party. So I went to the party to get, this is in 2021, to get the party's backing for what I was doing. And the local leader of CD3 at that time, a guy named Randy Sutter, said, okay, we'll back you, but promise me you'll never bring up issues of election integrity. So, we're still kind of in that. This goes into paradigms, doesn't it? Paradigm shifting, paradigm cracking. You're the first person that's ever come in here as a candidate with me. Now, Royce talks about it, but I mean, I'm not interviewing him. He's just talking about it on Free People Radio. I think that's a stunning thing to say. Yeah. And if I heard you right, you said there's data points and analysis that reveal to you ex-military intelligence, of course, that can be an oxymoron, but in your case, I don't think so.
Right.
And you saw things that made you very concerned about those results.
Yeah.
So we're going to end here, but I'm going to say.
I'm sorry to say we can't end yet because I said I was going to pull up this Walz video. So we might have a couple fans that have been waiting for this.
Okay,
so.
Go ahead. Okay, thank you, Tanner. Yeah. Go ahead. Fire it up.
Let's go for a ride. Come on.
I've been to every corner of Minnesota, and there's nothing like it. It's the best place on earth with the best people. I've seen how we help each other through the hard times. And boy, we've seen terrible times this year. I'm heartbroken and angry about the beautiful people we lost to gun violence. But it's in these moments we have to come together. We can't lose hope because I've seen what we can do when we work together, like passing paid family leave and the child tax credit, cutting taxes for the middle class, while also making the largest investments in public safety. We've raised graduation rates to the highest ever, worked across party lines to balance the budget while protecting education, and been named one of the best states for children and one of the best for business. But we're not done yet, and that's why I'm running for re-election. I want to make Minnesota a place where everyone has a chance to succeed, in every corner of the state, where we lower costs for hardworking people who raise our crops, weld our steel, and teach our kids, crack down on fraud and protect our tax dollars, help working class families get affordable health care instead of kicking them off it, invest in improving our public schools instead of defunding them, get serious about gun violence, and where we protect our rights and freedoms no matter what you look like or who you love. I've always tried to do what's right for Minnesota, and I'll never stop fighting to protect us from the chaos, corruption, and cruelty coming out of Washington. Now I'm hitting the road to listen to you and talk about our future. I'll see you out there.
Okay, so there's some great follow-up videos. Every single one of his points, the exact opposite is true.
Yeah.
And it just made me ill to watch it because I was like, first of all, I can't watch this. Then I made myself watch it. And then within 24 hours, there's great follow-up videos where they take take his video, pull it apart, and insert actually what happened, including the fact that the mandates to public schools that were never funded, including the fact that Medicaid, level of fraud in Medicaid, which kicked under his administration, which kicked people off of Medicaid because of the level of fraud, the housing program, which they completely shut down because every single
it was all fraud.
So,
and then to make the statement that Minnesota is hospitable for business,
and there
is, I'm a business owner here in Minnesota. It's very difficult to do business in Minnesota.
I thank him for his video because, quite frankly, it brilliantly helps the rest of us.
You know what, Tanner? For a subsequent podcast, we should get those parody videos and play them. Every podcast we'll fire one up there. It's not really to help Phil specifically, but just to help the Republican cause in general.
Yeah,
because there's a shamelessness that comes with BSing at this level.
Yeah, at that level of dishonesty, that takes, so people here again is a paradigm shift. Some people are the paradigm has cracked wide open, and yeah, that's the biggest bunch of lies I've ever seen. But there's still this group of people that, oh yeah, and oh, wait a minute, is he really being that bold? That I mean, there's so much of it, it's not even plausible anymore.
Well, that's that curated political. I mean, he looks the part. He speaks the part. He's a great actor.
And you love the staged acting, the T-shirt, and then the
Yeah, it was very well done. Very well funded. Fantastic.
and the old truck. And
the one thing that, yeah, right. Ignition key.
What an act job.
But I tell
telling
you, the one thing that did strike me was in the scene with the healthcare, the woman that was seeing the doctor, she actually looked afraid. She did. No, I mean,
Right.
we go to, and I don't know if I said this when you were here last time. I get the same feeling going to the Department of Motor Vehicles
Right.
now.
Yeah, you did say
that
that.
I get going to the doctor.
I'm scared.
Whoa, this is a little scary in
Scary.
here. Phil, thank you so much
Yeah.
for coming in. It was great to talk with you. The discussion of strategy and tactics needs to continue.
Yeah.
This is me being, I mean, politics has got some usy thing. What I want to use the campaigns for is to get people involved in self-governance. And I hope that, when you become a governor, if you are blessed to become governor, that you actually, when you go up to the microphone and address a crowd, ask people, have you joined your local party? Where are our politicians, our elected officials? When have I ever had someone elected to office stand up before the mic and say, could you please join your party? Could you please exercise your citizenship? Because I have never heard it.
Right.
Never.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting you bring that up because just a little flash memory of Steve Swigum. We're sitting in class, in government class, and that essentially was what the conversation was about. Have you gotten involved? And the teachers were great, the school district and stuff, and principal, they were all supportive of getting involved, and they didn't care if it was Republican or Democrat. But it's a great point.
High school civics. I want to see someone like Julia Coleman stride up to the microphone and ask people. But this is a discernment issue.
Yeah.
Could be analyzing myself. But if we brought a lot of new people into the party might change.
Right.
And people who are in power now might find themselves out of power.
Yeah.
So have a little boldness, our elected officials, because we're at such a potent moment in human history.
Right.
And let's really encourage people to do what? Be Americans.
Yeah.
And on that note, great to see you.
Yep.
Thank you very much for
God
coming
bless.
in.
Yeah.
You're all welcome.
Yeah.
Tanner, thank you very much.
Of course.
Thanks.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.